Hello, everybody. I got something here. What the hell happened to my T-shirt? I got this little. I think I spilled something. So everything looks right here. And yes, hello. Welcome everyone to this live show. And let me make sure that I go here. I'm gonna check the email. Going to check and go here and go here to HF Underground for Pirates. Lots of things we're going to talk about today. A lot of little things here and there. And I tried to not finish yet, but we're going to repositioning stuff here slowly. And so things are going to be kind of changing in the background. Got my YouTube award, got my ham radio certificate. I need to put something really black in the back of this on the air so that it doesn't look all fuzzy weird. But I think it's going to be nice. I think it's going to be quite nice. What else do we have? So Pirates, okay. So hello everybody, welcome aboard to this Wednesday edition of our live show. We are, of course, live Wednesday, North America. That's Thursday UTC time for most of the world. So 8 p.m. Eastern in North America, Wednesday. That's 0 hours UTC. We are also live on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. We talk about radio, shortwave radio, and we are, of course, talking about everything, anything radio in general, from all the frequency ranges and so on. So, you know what? It's cool to be here. Cool to have all of this happening. And yeah, slowly reorganizing, making things even more interesting in the background. I was thinking of possibly here where there's this screen, this projection screen. It's going to be probably I was looking at a 40-inch TV for the waterfall. When I'm listening to anything on the laptop, you'll see the waterfall there. So I thought that could be kind of a nice idea. Continuing to shuffle things around, the console's going to move. Lots of things are going to be, kind of slowly moving on. Here we got the lighting in the background that changes color. We've got, of course, the lamp there that I usually put not as strong as this one, although it doesn't really matter right now. So, anyways, slowly reorganizing stuff. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and this is a live show that we have twice a week. We have a beautiful chat room with wonderful people that are just great. And you can, of course, join that and say hello. And if you have questions, I mean, I think it's the most civilized and wonderful group of the shortwave world that we have here. And when all of this is over, we have a Facebook group, official SWL channel, same name as as the uh, the YouTube channel, and people post everything they're listening to, pictures of their shacks, videos of what they're listening, anything of interest to the radio listener. I think it's a lot of fun, And it's pretty cool to have all of you here. Email, of course, is official shortwave radio. All the full words, official shortwave radio at gmail.com. And so we just, you can send a little email, say hello, and ask questions. We do have emails from people that actually, how people are, just asking question and being friendly, and sometimes just sharing, personal opinions, personal observations, or observations of their own life, and how it relates to radio. People have lots of great stories of radio and a moment in their lives where it was important in some way. It could be when they got their first radio that was theirs. It could be simply because of many other things, that some event, world event, news event that happened, and that actually kind of shuffled their changed their outlook on radio, and their lives. So it's kind of cool. We all have these little moments in our lives where radio was kind of the center of attention for some reason. Tonight I'm not having my usual vodka drink. I'm having a glass of wine. So cheers, everybody. So I just want to say, first of all, hello to Richard Lemke. That is actually sent an email from St. Albert, Alberta, Canada. Nice to see that you're doing well. Mother waiting in the hospital for a place in nursing home. Totally feel you. I'm taking care of somebody also, and it's not easy. And so hope you are well. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about that chip shortage, and Texan actually warning everybody that is going to buy a Texan receiver. There might be a shortage. Texan is being affected by the chip shortage right now. So cool to have all of you here, and let's check out the chat room. So hey, Jay Watterson 69, nice to have you here. Bobby Burgess in Louisiana, nice to have you here. WA5107 SWL. Richard Wagner from Northeast Illinois, nice to have you here. Jeff Beaumont, K8VDB in Canton, Michigan. Mad Max 2069, nice to have you here. James Farley, KD2GUZ from Old Bridge, New Jersey. We have Richard Wagner that did a pretty good supper, not frozen, all by myself. Congratulations. I ate some hot dogs with Mexican sausages. But tomorrow I'm going to be making pasta carbonara that I love. Rob from Phoenix, Arizona, nice to have you on board. We have Michael from Northern New Jersey, USA. Chuck Schreiber, nice to have you here, and 5KVO from South Texas. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you on board, my friend. James Farley, I haven't even, you know what? The QRM Eliminator is there looking at me, and I haven't even taken the time yet to use it. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I haven't been posting a lot of videos on the Shortwave channel in the last month because I'm just too, taking care of somebody, plus doing my tech channel videos, and there's so much going on that I'm having a hard time finding time to actually enjoy radio and do videos. So I'm trying. I'm hoping that in July I'll actually catch up and do more, including that QRM eliminator that I really need to test correctly. And one of the first parts is that I'm going to be using it on either the ICOM here, or there's also the Kenwood that's there, and hoping that it's going to. Kenwood is actually it's in the bag, but like if I remove the text in here, you guys are going to see that there's the Kenwood R5000 right there. So I'm going to be taking the time to test it properly with S meters, because that's what I want to see on an S meter. On the modern receivers with those signal to noise ratio stuff, it's difficult to really make a good assessment of how the performance of the current eliminator works. But with S meters, like on these older receivers, I think it's going to be more of an interesting aspect. I'm going to put a wire near my MLA30 because that's where the noise comes from, because that's where it is. Hopefully, we're going to see the effect and how well that works. So, coming up, guys, don't despair. Joe, nice to have you here from Newmarket, Virginia. Gabe's Radio Channel, nice to have you on board. James Binder, nice to have you here. Timothy Gaynor, nice to have you on board. John Hummel Newell, VE5JHN, nice to have you here. Timothy is from wintry Australia. Jet Crafter, nice to have you here from Southern Maine. We have DJW883 from Southeast Pennsylvania. Patrick from Washington State. We have RJD Dakota. Studio starting to look really good. Thank you very much. And it's going to be even better. Saturday, there should be more changes from now to Saturday. So, and don't forget, guys, one of the reasons why I'm going to show you a little radio in a few moments is because of your donations from the Super Chat. And also, you can send donations to the good old PayPal that I had for a long time, still have today. So that is also a way to send me donations. They all go towards radio. And hopefully, in the next few weeks, there might be a surprise. I might be asking donations for a WRMI show. And so your support will be even more important at that time, where we're going to be on the air via WRMI at least once a week and maybe more. So details coming soon. Just going to say. Man Max 2069. You know what? The dots that were between 14 15 megahertz that I haven't seen since a while now. And there's the speculations are out there anywhere from radars. A lot of hams are speculating about the new radar site in the northern Russia that may be what we could have received on those bands back then. I don't know. It's so wide band signal that I have a hard time thinking it's actually a it's a radar, but we're gonna see. Greg, nice to have you on board. And he says your Primus J110 retro style receiver is cool. I got it today. I ordered it yesterday, actually, and got it today. Zigzag, nice to have you here from Northern Indiana. I'm not Chuck. Nice to have you on board. Yeah, there's all sorts of interesting stuff. There's ham radio shows. There's radio shows of all kinds. There's electronic stuff. There was a guy that I lost, and it's going to be. It was interesting because the guy does electronic, like looks at electronic kits of all sorts, and actually builds them and gives his opinion on how the quality of the parts and how the quality of the instructions. And but I lost the guy. I don't remember what's his name, and I tried to find him and I can't find him. I need to but there's a lot of really cool stuff. And anybody that likes or is interested in anything, I mean, YouTube is such a enormous repository of amazing videos and live shows of all sorts. It's just crazy. John Harris, nice to have you on board. RJG Dakota, New Primus does look like kind of cool, like an old 60s Admiral AA5, an All American 5. Rob says, I like how your studio is coming along. The back wall looks great. Thank you very much. Kamikaze 76, nice to have you here from West Michigan. Darren Rogers from Long Island, New York. Joseph. Sorry, guys. I'm losing my voice tonight. Joseph from San Francisco Bay Area. What else we have? What else do we have? Timothy Gaynor said the used shortwave radio market might skyrocket. Yeah, we're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. John Harris says cheers. He's got a margarita. Cool. Christian Marcoux, salut. J'espère que ça va bien. Nice to have you here from North Bay, Ontario. Mike Jam, nice to have you here from the Lakes Regions, New Hampshire. Dave's radio channel is in Massachusetts. Penguin, nice to have you here. Brad in Amarillo, Texas, nice to have you on board. David's Radio Room, KJ4CMY in Central Georgia, nice to have you here. We have Michael that is would like to toast you and your show and everyone else. Pretty cool. Chuck agrees with RJDA Dakota Studio looking good. Yep, WRMI. No details yet. I'm going to give you the details when it's official and when the first show is done and going to be broadcast. So that's coming, guys. Okay. Hang in there, but you guys are going to have something this summer to listen to. And how long is it going to last? We're going to see. I don't know. All depends on many factors. I mean, there's a cost to airing a live show, or not a live show, airing a show on WRMI. It's not free. So it all depends on, is it something that is going to be interesting and people are going to listen to? We'll see. I'll ask for donations. Of course, I got no problem paying for the show, but can help if somebody helps also at the same time. We'll see what's going to happen with that. That's for sure. Also, the type of show, I'm still working on the intricacies of what exactly the show is going to be. I know that I want to have a 1 hour show. How am I going to divide it, and how am I going to, what am I going to talk in that show? One thing for sure is it's going to be radio related. There's not going to be really music in it. There's really going to be, a lot of talking, a lot of things going on. There's going to be a special EQSLs for the show, and so on. And talking of EQSLs, there's some interesting news coming out of the BBC we need to talk tonight also. Dr. Sisop, nice to have you on board. So frequency is going to be chosen because I'll be probably asking you guys what's the best frequency of WRMI that you guys have when you listen, and we're going to decide what frequency we're going to use, depending on two factors, of course. If there's a space in the schedule that I can be in, and what time. It's going to be prime time evening that I want to be. So I don't know. There are probably less choices in prime time. We're going to see here what's going to happen. I've been monitoring the WRMI frequencies here. I know 15770 comes in well here. 5950 has been pretty good. 5800, not as good, but still good enough. So I don't know. We're going to see. 9395 is not that great here, actually. So we're going to see. So RJ88 Dakota, the time and frequency is going to be announced when all of it is going to be there. So it's going to be prime time, not evening broadcast. Dr. says really prime time evening for most of North America. So I'm going to see how we're going to do that. And I don't know. I have to ask what are going to be the time slots available also. So we're going to see. Metal Lunar, nice to have you here. Timothy Gaynor. Is the noise? Oh, the radio's been restarting. Okay. I was wondering what the noise was that. Let me just go back down here. Lost my spot. John Harris is in Allen, Texas. Larry Gilmore, nice to have you on board. And 20 meters wide open actually still is. Lost track of time, no problem. Harper, nice to have you on board. USA open to Australia on 15 meters. which is usually the time of day where it is actually working on 20 and 15 usually. The Zen Pharaohs is following with the Drake R8 and the Texan 501X and some guest radios with the unusual antenna melange. Carl Icon, nice to have you on board. Radio Romania booming, 9730 New York. Radio Romania is from Romania. They don't relay at all. Actually, you should listen to 7375 for the English Radio Romania. 9730, I believe, is not in English. Is it in English? I don't think so, right? 9.730. So there's some music. Let's see, 7.375. Yeah, it's not the same program. 7375 is Radio Romania in English at this time. Coming in quite well, actually. So, Radio Romania 7375 kilohertz. By the way, if you're searching for Radio Romania's all the frequencies that are announced, Radio Romania has a transmitter issue. So there are some transmitters not working right now, waiting for parts. So there are frequencies advertised that are not on the air. So what else do we have? Timothy, 7330 kilohertz, I hope can be heard in Australia. So we're going to assess what frequency actually, and we're going to be checking out VT Radio. Nice to have you here, Paul, AA1SU from Vermont. And it was a great field day. Call was W1NVT plus W1PU for pretty cool for the field day. What do we have? Brother Hagel's going to replace Butter Stare. I would like to have on their. I would like to replace every broadcast of Brother Stare with something, honestly, but I don't have the financial means to do so. Darren Rogers, my noise problem is that the noise comes through the electrical outlets in the house, making reception on the ICOM IC735 HF transceiver more difficult to enjoy listening with on shortwave bands. Yeah, the wiring in your home is definitely a problem when it comes to a lot of noise. Now, I'm surprised that your ICOM does get a lot of noise from that, because usually the ICOMs and the big gun radios are pretty well filtered from what comes through the noise, through the outlets. Although, if you have something that's very heavy on interference, remember that the wiring in your, in the walls becomes like huge antennas spreading noise all over the place. Mita Lunar, did you ever listen to analog subcarrier broadcasts on FM? It used to be called SCA. There's still any in use that you know of? Did you have radios that could receive it? I have one radio that actually receives. That's one that I need to take out. Actually, I have one radio that is actually a subcarrier radio. It's a little portable that enables you to listen to the subcarrier audio on FM. There are in Montreal a few channels that have subcarrier radio stations. One is a Sri Lanka type radio station. And there is CKUT, where me and Sheldon Harvey are doing the International Radio Report on 90.3, has a subcarrier audio station there. I think that's the one that has I think it's Tamil language or something. So there is 3 or 4 stations here that subcarrier stations are sending audio and programming. So it's kind of interesting. And it's still used here for a few stations. So there's not a lot, though. I mean, when I look at the possibilities of these, extra channels, if you want, it's kind of interesting. but there's not a lot, and most of them come from the community stations, like CKUT. The other one's on the University of Montreal station on FM 89.3. I really need to. I don't know if I can quickly. I'm going to just check quick if I can find a radio, because there's a box of radio. There's a box of radio here. Is there my subcarrier? I really want to see if there is my subcarrier here. So I'm just going to put this here, like this, and I'm going to check out if I find it quickly. I mean, really quickly, and I think I did find it. Not sure though, but it's either here or here. This is, yes, it is. Da-da-da-da-da. Batteries are dead. So I have to change the batteries. But this is the little AVI radio. It's a subcarrier audio receiver. So let's just put fresh batteries in here that I can find somewhere. Do I have batteries? I do have batteries somewhere. Here's 2 rechargeables. I'll put 2 rechargeables in this. And here we go. Oh, the rechargeables. Oh yeah, remember, rechargeables don't fit in it. I have to put real alkalines. For some reason, the rechargeables are like a little too big for the radio itself. So let me just hang around, guys. Won't be long. I'm gonna get some AA batteries somewhere here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Got it. So, there we go. So, turn it on. Turn it on. So, turn it on. So, of course, you've got a standard reception of FM. So, like the CBC here. And then I can go to SCA 1 or 2. Now, I know for a fact, so there to give you an idea, 89.3 is the University of Montreal station playing some music. And if I go to subcarrier, so this is a subcarrier radio station on 89.3. And the other one, so if I go to CKUT, so this is CKUT, where we have our Show Me and Sheldon on Sundays. If I go to the subcarrier, I believe, oh, it's not there anymore. They used to have a subcarrier station, but what I learned is that the station using the subcarrier was not paying its bills, so they removed it, I guess. So here's 91.3. And at 91.3, if I go subcarrier, so yep, there are some subcarrier stations still on some channels. So it's kind of cool. This is a little radio that you can still buy It's rather expensive though. But AVI radio, if you get that little portable, it has the button and it has the frequencies, two subcarrier frequencies, and the main channel. This thing does not do shortwave, does not do AM. Its only purpose of existence is to do FM and subcarrier FM. So here, you got your answer. There are still some, but it depends on the markets. There are markets where there's no more. I've seen some guys that tell me that where they are, there's just nothing on the subcarrier. No, there's none on 107.9, Dr. Sisop, just to let you know. So you've got an example of subcarrier audio on FM here. Thomas, tomorrow. Nice to have you here. Radio Nacional Amazonas booming into New Jersey. What else do we have? We have Mita Lunar. Just saw the retro Prunus radio you have. I assume, however, that it is digital DSP based, not actual analog. Definitely, I'm going to talk about it. I used it a little bit. I posted one video this afternoon of listening to Radio Prague via WRMI on 15770. So that gives you an idea. Super Scope, nice to have you on board. Voice of Greece, unfortunately, has not been extended past the June 15th date. So radio Voice of Greece is definitely for now gone from shortwave. Thank you, Greg, for my videos are awesome. So they terminated on June 15th. So 2 weeks, pretty much like 2 weeks ago. Timothy says maybe just a relay of international radio report. It's already being produced at CKUT. It's been done before and still here. Yeah, that's one idea I did have. A 1 hour show where I have 30 minutes of my stuff and the other 30 minutes would be the international radio report via WRMI. I did have this that idea did cross my mind. Absolutely. Like we was in Australia. Absolutely. Yogi could decide a WRMI frequency to use by YouTube poll. Yeah, that would be either YouTube or even Facebook poll. That would be nice. Zen Farrell's nice to have you here from and he says he's got Trenton Military in Ontario, 6754. Let me check it out here. 6.754. Upper side, man, pretty strong here. Pretty strong here. So that's the military. Canadian military station, 6754 from Trenton Military in Ontario. Keegan DeXter, I was thinking of you this week. Really, really thinking of you, Keegan DeXter. Nice to have you here. I got my first ever FMDX by accident this week. And we're going to come to that. I'm almost at the bottom of the chat, so I'm going to come to that because I got all excited of what I got, and I think I still have the recording, and I'm going to play it back. All right, 61, nice to have you on board. Beta Lunar, that's cool. Didn't know there were still many subcarrier broadcasts still around. Like I said, it depends on the markets. There are places where there are none. But here in Montreal, you see there's two. CKUT is now doesn't have it anymore. What else do we have? Dan, nice to have you on board from Ohio in 8JJZ. What else do we have? What else do we have? Key in the X-ray, use laptop computer. Cementy Gainer, that would work great. Good thinking. Lord Kitchener, thank you for the tip. Nice to have the tip. RGDA Dakota really enjoys the afternoon program, the English Prague Radio International. Definitely nice. Absolutely. What else do we have? Yes, as actually you can decode the SCA, the subcarrier audio FM on SDR software. Actually, you can do it with SDR Sharp. There's, I believe, a plugin that lets you do it through an RTL SDR dongle. I need to check that. Hey Sheila, nice to have you here. Only 10 minutes from the from the Canadian Forces Base Trenton. I need a capable radio now. Gaze Radio Channel 9330, World's Last Chance crap on from WBCQ. Absolutely. Lurch Kitchener getting his tech license. Give me a tip on good transceiver. What is nice, you don't have to pay that much for a good transceiver. I don't want to go through forward with it. Depends on the amount of money that you have, but I know that a lot of people, um, that seem to like the ICOM AC 7300. It seems to be one on the top of the favorites, and it's not too expensive. So that could be one, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. There's some Yaesu stuff. um, I think do a good research and ask here anybody that has these transceivers, what do they like and what do they use and what they find is one of the best out there. There's a lot of good stuff. So, Dr. Sisop, can you pick up other Vermont stations or Plattsburgh, New York station on FM there? I get WVPS from Burlington, Vermont on a 107.9. I get 92.9, was it's a pop music station coming out of I believe also Burlington, Vermont. I get the Buzz, which is 99.9 FM from, I'm not sure if it's Plattsburgh, New York, or if it's from Burlington, but I get 3 or 4 different stations. So, but 107.9 is kind of the one that I go to, and because I got the HD radio, I like it because when I listen to 107.9, I can switch to HD2 or HD3 and get the BBC World Service in HD, which is really nice. Jim from Rhode Island, nice to have you on board. VT Radio 99.9 is in Rand Hill and Plattsburgh. 92.9 is in Mountain Mansfield. So I get both of those here quite well too. Gabriel, nice to have you here from Uruguay, CVC 2606. So, Keegan DXer, I was thinking about you for a simple reason this week. I'm going to get my phone. So here's the story. I got a story, guys, okay? I hope you're not going to get bored. I'm listening. So Monday night, I'm listening to my usual because I like it. I listen to WVPS Burlington on 107.9. And so what happens is 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. while I'm actually cooking supper, I usually am listening to I think it's As It Happens, and then it's they have that report for the economy and all the stuff that's happening and in the stock markets and whatever, because I like to hear what's happening in the world of finance, because it can impact us, of course. So while I'm listening to it, something that I have never experienced before happened on that marketplace. Thank you, Erica Troll. It's exactly that. Marketplace is the name of the show. So anyways, I'm listening I'm used to listening to it all the time. Suddenly, I have a station with pop music that overpowers WVPS 107.9 for, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds. And I'm like, wow, I never, this radio doesn't overload. It's the same G and HDR14, and it doesn't overload on FM on any stations. So I'm kind of wondering what's happening. And then it fades away. And then I get back my WVPS station, and I'm like, whoa, what's that? What the hell just happened? And it did that 3 or 4 times during the hour I was listening to WVPS. So I was a little intrigued. I was like, what's happening? What is happening right now? Then I see in the Facebook group one of the posts, someone saying, hey, the FM band is all funky tonight. I'm hearing stuff like 1,000 miles away. And I don't usually hear more than 100 miles away. So I thought, you know what? Okay, let's use the HDR14 from St. Gian, and let's go through the FM band and try to find whatever is there in between the strong stations of Montreal. And first of all, there was not only Sportic E-Skip, but there was also Tropo scatter, because I could hear a couple of stations in the province of Quebec, but that were 300 kilometers away, which is unusual. So it's like all the propagation characteristics of everything was there that night. I start scanning and I hear stations I've never heard before on frequencies that I usually hear nothing. But the most interesting is when I get to 96.5 FM. I get to 96.5 FM. And on 96.5 FM, first of all, I don't know if you guys can read what's on this screen for the, whoops. You just, did I? Come on. So, anyways, yeah. So here it says W, you guys can't see it really, but that display says WOEX, Orlando Exitos 96.5. And if you guys, I'm just going to put the audio. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to start it over. So I'm going to just stop it here. Good. So it comes in and out. Straining out. But I'm getting a station from Orlando, Florida. So here, I'm getting a station from Orlando. 96.5. So it's in Spanish. And this one is not even the best recording, because there were times it would coming in so well that it was almost like a local station. So that was 96.5 FM. And, you know, I got immediately curious because 96.5 was in Spanish and I didn't know of any Spanish language station. Then the display of the RDS on the radio started showing WOEX 96.5 Orlando. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I streamed it over the web and I started looking at the info from the station, and dang, 96.5 station from Orlando, Florida, coming in at times clear like it was a local and fading out, fading in, fading out, fading in. So this was amazing. I got hooked. And I mean, I started going through the FM band, trying to see if there was any other station. So what I did is I left the HDR 14 on 96.5, and I actually took the Ethon Field BT radio that also has RDS, and I tuned around with that one. So I thought if there's any stations from far away with the RDS ID, I'll see it on the display. I know Keegan the Xer does that. So I was completely, completely I was, a kid again, discovering the radio for the first time again. It was just so amazing. And I spent the rest of the night listening. It lasted roughly an hour, roughly an hour. So basically, after about an hour, things quieted down, and the FM band was pretty much back to normal with only the local stations around Montreal. So it's kind of very, very interesting that I heard that, and it's sparked an interest. I mean, I immediately thought, okay, I gotta scan the FM band much more often and try to hear stations from far away. So my my best DX this week on FM band, actually my first ever from so far away, 96.5 WOEX in Orlando, Florida, coming into Montreal. I mean, not even a fancy setup, just a little Sangean HDR 14. And actually, I also had another portable next to it, which was the CC Skywave SSB. I put it on FM; it could also get it 96.5, and I was amazed. I mean, I was a little kid. I tell you, it was like discovering shortwave for the first time. I was always excited and was like, "Oh man, I hope this continues." I'm gonna, So I'm gonna say one thing. I think I'm gonna join Keegan DXer and maybe listening a little more to the FM band in search of Skip, because dang, that was amazing. I was really, really amazed. I would have been interested in knowing, because I never got it, but I was interested in knowing what was the pop music I was hearing from time to time over WVPS on 107.9. Where was it coming from? I would have loved to know that little 10 to 20 seconds where I heard the station. Where was it from? But I couldn't really know. And it's tough, there's no ID. It's kind of tough. So it was crazy. Yeah, it was on Monday. VT Radio. It was on Monday. It was when I heard that station from Florida. It was about 8 p.m. local, 7:30, 8 p.m. local. I was just amazed, and then it quieted down. But the 6 meters could have been actually still alive. Sometimes the E skip goes up to the FM band, but sometimes it kind of drops off. It's still good for 50 megahertz, but um, it might not be good enough for the FM band in the 90 megahertz range. But it definitely sparked an interest, and it definitely has added something new to my listening experience. And when I tell everybody, do listen to every part of the spectrum on radio. If you want to keep your motivation, if you want to keep it alive, if you want to keep the interest up, do scan everywhere from long wave to light years. I mean, come on, everything. Try it. Try stuff. Try to listen to stuff. That's how you get, your interest back. I mean, I was a little kid on Monday. I was amazed at how I was getting that station and all. I was just really, really amazed. So my first real good experience with a DX station on 96.5, and I noticed quite a few little spots in the FM band that are quiet here in Montreal. So I'll be monitoring these frequencies regularly, and especially when I see that the 6 meter band is open. So this is really really cool, and it was definitely something that got me really excited. So I thought of you, Keegan the Xer. I couldn't, I had to think of you because you're the guy that always does these FM, these FM DXing videos and stuff. And I was like, wow, okay. I get it when you're probably excited the same way when you get these FM stations from so far away. But for me, it was a first. I knew that FM DXing was something. I knew, but I never took the time to do it much because it takes a good radio, first of all, here in Montreal for that, because the FM band is full of stations, and the FM band is also so overcrowded with powerful FM stations that 90% of the radios I use here are incapable of receiving anything on FM on these empty frequency ranges because it's overloaded by all the other FM signals. But I did find that there are a few radios that are pretty good for that. My Sangean HDR14 is actually really good for that. I noticed that the Ethon Field BT radio that I have is pretty good for the FMDXing also. And if you want to do some FMDXing, a radio with RDS functionality is really, really useful because even, like that Orlando station, even if I didn't get a ID, although they did say Orlando in Spanish and all of that, the fact that it displayed the call letters WOEX Orlando, well, definitely helps because it's like, wow, okay, these are the call letters. This is the station I'm getting. And this is just so great. So that's the story for FM radio DXing that I got on Monday night. And I definitely want to try more FM DXing now. Also, remember, guys, this is the time period for eSkip. So Sportic eSkip is different from the standard skip of shortwave signals that you have all the time. Um, Standard propagation with higher frequencies rely on solar activity, but Sportic eSkip does not rely on solar activity. It has nothing to do with that. It has a different way of existing. And we think that I've noticed, for example, where there's really strong fronts with a lot of thunderstorms, often there's e-skip that happens. I've known e-skip for a very, very long time. I mean, I was listening to 10-meter repeaters at midnight. I still remember the first time I found Sportic eSkip and knew that what it was is back in 1991, 92. I was up north and I had a little scanner radio that went down to 29 megahertz. And I actually was listening to 29660. Back then, there was a repeater, an FM repeater for 10-meter band in the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. And I was hearing it. I mean, I was hearing it up to late in the evening. So there was sporadic e-skip happening. And that was in February. And it's not even that time usually. The sporadic e-skip has two periods around where they are more intense in the year. So one is now, okay, around the June solstice. There is a height in the sporadic e-skip. It's actually the best time from late May up to sometime in July. And that is one of the biggest e-skip period at all. How do you differentiate e-skip or sporadic e-skip from regular propagation? Um, First of all, sporadic e-skip will give you skip distances that are sometimes different from what you have on standard skip. But what is the mostly going to tell you you're on sporadic e-skip is if you're on 10 meters or on 6 meters, like 50 megahertz, the sun is set and you're still hearing signals, you're definitely hearing signals from sporadic E-skip. And it can be really far. I remember a couple of years ago, 50 megahertz. I was listening to some FT8 digital mode on 5313, and I remember hearing Brazil. So sometimes there are multiple hops possible through sporadic E-skip. So this is a time when you should try that. This is the time when you need to try it. What time of day or night? There isn't a time of day or night. Listen in and try it regularly. You'll be surprised at what you might find. Now, if you do want to know a little more about what's happening with um, sporadic E-skip, there is a website which is, let me just try to find it again. Um, Sporadic E-skip. I haven't been there in such a long time. I forgot the website. So there's one particularly that I like. Oh man, maybe you guys can help me here. I'm trying to remember. There's a website, there's a world map, and DX Maps. Thank you, Eric. You're a lifesaver. DXmaps.com. Merci. So DXmaps.com. This is great because DXmaps.com will show you a map, and that map will tell you, depending on the top, you can choose the world, you can choose North America. So here I'm going to choose North America, 6 meters, 50 megahertz. So what it's going to tell me right now is look at all the activity on 50 megahertz in North America. This is the map. So this is the map, and you can choose on the top of that website different frequencies. And so when 50 megahertz is propagating like that, you can, like right now, with what I see here, I would try the FM band. Maybe there's something happening. So DX maps, and it's also useful because it tells you, if you go to left side, LF and HF button, it's going to tell you every band, like 10 meters. Here, for example, is going to give you another example. This is a 10-meter band right now. This is what has been reported and logged. The East Coast right now is in skip, and this is probably sporadic E-skip at this time. So a lot of it is from the south up to the northeast. I don't see any connections like Eric says, but I don't see any. Definitely don't see much in Quebec or Canada. So it seems to be more to the south of us. But check that out. If you see activity that goes to your area where you live on the map, you got to try the different bands. Definitely. So these are really cool tools, dxmaps.com, to see the the um, the activity on the different bands. It's really, really cool. Okay, what else do we have? Let's go down now to chat a little more. A little more. Um, so VT radio, what's the difference between subcarrier audio carrier and HD on a 107.9? Okay, so subcarrier audio is not digital. It's analog. It's just a small chunk of the band as an offset of a certain amount of kilohertz. So, for example, here it tells me on the radio that it's using the, I don't see it. Let me just try to get some. I'll see it here. 92 kilohertz, 67 kilohertz, something like that. So HD is also in a subcarrier. It's just that it is digital. It's a stream of data. Now, instead, what they do is they use that probably the same range of frequency, but it's analog audio that's embedded there. So on your standard radio, you'll hear only the main channel, but with a specialized radio that can actually go and get just that little tiny portion, you're going to get the subcarrier audio also at the same time. It's a very narrow band, so you don't expect to have the high quality of the standard FM when you're listening to that. But subcarrier audio is analog. The main difference is probably on the same range, but it's an analog signal that you can listen to rather than HD digital stream that's being sent out. So, Eric Cottrell, bonjour, hi, nice to have you on board from a somewhat warm Boston. Johnny Sorrentino, nice to have you here from New York City. We have we have Zen Pharaoh's HCJB 6050 decent, much better than usual from the only frequency left from HCJB in Ecuador, direct from Ecuador. Keegan DXer heard Marketplace on a few NPR stations via eSkip. Carol, W7XWV. Nice. WXV, sorry. Nice to have you here from Central Oregon. Scott, KC2CAD. Yep, tropoducting. Both were there that night on Monday. There was tropoducting and there was sporting eSkip. The eSkip gave me the Florida station. Tropoducting gave me a station in Saint Gabriel de Brandon, which is like 300 kilometers away. It was like, wow, okay. Dr. Sisop, 102.9 Jacksonville, Florida, here on Skip. Hey, Greg. Garger, nice to have you here. Keegan DXer says, I heard Orlando and Jacksonville, Florida stations here in Northwest Arkansas recently. Salut, TVDXer, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. The PBRSTG from the northern Vermont Green Mountains. Nice to have you on board. Yeah, that was a really nice cache. 96.5 Orlando, Florida. Wow. Sir Maximus Hardwood, nice to have you on board. So, yep, Dr. Sisup. E-skip from Orlando, Florida to Montreal on 96.5. Still amazed. TVDXer got to Milwaukee on 96.5, not Florida. You know, Spartic E-skip, that's also a very, very interesting characteristic of Spartic E-skip. It will target a specific area. So you might be listening one day to stations from, say, Florida, Alabama, and another day you'll be listening to stations that are in Colorado. Depending on where that intense patch of ionization is happening, you'll have different areas that are going to show up on different days. Bob, WA2SQQ, nice to have you here from New Jersey. What else do we have? Timothy Gaynor, during our summer in Australia with both Aussie and New Zealand stations, even New Caledonia on 88 megahertz can be heard, and vice versa in those countries. Quite often, a car radio works well too. You just need a good radio. If the radio is decent enough, it's and the good days when that happens, you'll get stuff. What else do we have? Mental Lunar, too bad the TV analog days are over. That would have been great for day. But you know what? Some people are actually DXing even the digital HD TV signals. Apparently it works. Rich McVicker, from former host of HCJB, actually does that. And he's got quite a few pictures and videos of receiving stations. King and the Extra most of the time I use my Ethan Grundy Eaton Field BT with RDS on FM. No, I did not send them a reception report, but that would have been kind of interesting. RJD Dakota, Hertz stations out a country broadcast, ZBM 89 megahertz from Bermuda. So what do we have? Thomas, my first shortwave radio was a Sprint Run Grundig Satellite 750 that featured RDS. I never understood the concept. Could you please explain? So RDS is radio data system. It is a digital digital stream of information that a radio can get with text. It's really just text. RDS is text. Not every station does use it. Here in Montreal, pretty much all of the stations use it. What do you get in RDS? There are several different RDS streams that you can cycle through on most radios. A lot of stations, for example, here will give you a information about what song is playing. Say it's a rock music station. You'll have the artist, the song in the display. So if you want to know what I'm listening to, you'll have that info. You also can have the letters, the call sign of the station. So, for example, for DXing, like I did, that was very useful. It gave me WOEX in the display in the RDS stream. But you have to cycle through because people don't know that there's a cycling of different streams of RDS that needs to be done. When you cycle through, you'll have different information. Some of the RDS streams have nothing in them. One of the streams is there with timestamp. For example, your radio can actually be accurate on the clock using the stations that actually use RDS and send clock or time information. And your radio is going to actually synchronize the clock and the radio with the information it's getting off of the RDS signal. So there's a lot of stuff that RDS is having. And it is definitely a very interesting feature. Unfortunately, there are markets and there are areas where it isn't used much. And it actually should be because more like car radios all have RDS pretty much today. Not all receivers do. We always comment on how it's sad that Texan receivers do not have RDS functionality. But there are a lot of radios out there that do have RDS. And when that happens, you'll get the stream of information of what a station is sending out. So, do I have an RDS capable radio here? Let me check that out. Does the Seagrain have RDS capability? I don't think so, eh? I don't think so. No, I don't have one close by. Yeah, I do have one there. So I'm going to just show you guys RDS a little bit. For those that haven't really dabbled in the RDS on radio, on FM band, let me just go and fetch a radio that is capable of that. And I'm going to be back in a second or two when I'm able to do and get it without breaking anything. So let's go get some RDS stuff. I don't have any radios in the back there that has it. So let me just go and get a radio there. Here we go. It's one of the features we see a lot on Ethon receivers, by the way. So this one is the Grundig Edition Ethon. This is one with RDS. So if I go on the FM band, so let's go here on FM. Nothing like trying to find what's the button for FM. So if I go to our rock station, so the first thing that happened is, first of all, at the top here, this little icon, that just told me that the station does have an RDS stream. And so if you actually cycle through the RDS info, which I'm going to try to cycle through here. There we go. There we go. So it says now rock. If I cycle again, so this one has rock. It should have more info than that. I think on 97. Let's go to, I'm going to go to 95.1. So this one is information. Let me just see what I can cycle through. I can cycle through more stuff. So this one is information. It tells you information, but I want to see one that has more info on it. I'm trying to remember what button you have to press to cycle through the RDS. I don't remember on this radio. Ah, darn it. You know, when you have too many radios, you forget some of the radio's functionalities. But anyways, you guys get the drift. You get information, you get stream, you get song information, you get station identification, and so on. So this is definitely really cool. But the problem is, if your RDS functionality is stuck on the channel that has no info, you might be thinking, "Well, I don't understand. I'm not getting anything." So at that point, this is where you got to know where to cycle through the different RDS feeds. What else do we have? What else do we have? So as far as why are so many stations overmodulated tonight? If they are overmodulated, it's because you were actually overloading. Your Romania 7420 and whatever is probably overloading. You're having the signal so strong that it's actually distorting. That's an example of overload. Yeah, RDS is also a form of subcarrier with digital signals for the text that you see. RJDA Dakota subcarrier audio. A lot of FM stations used to use. Some Christian stations used to run audiobooks, Bible passages. Yep. Even on today, probably less. But there was even a trend once where, for example, when you'd go to say McDonald's and you'd hear some music, they had their own stream through a subcarrier of an FM station playing their, McDonald's radio, if you want. I think you just had some overload, Zenfaros. Tahoma once watched television from Wyoming and Seattle. The first time I was confronted with sporadic e-skip once again, one of the first times, I had a black and white TV, and there was a station from Alabama coming in on Channel 4. I still remember it took me an hour, more than an hour of watching before I could have a definite ID of the station at the top of the hour. So David's Radio Room was in Orlando in 1986. Had a TV with rabbit ears. Got a whole bunch of TV stations on UHF. I believe it was Tropo. Yeah, Tropo goes up to UHF. You'll easily have stations much further away than usual. I read an article once of the 1957-ish, one of the huge solar cycles, the biggest actually that was recorded ever since we're recording those. And it apparently European signals were interfering with North American stations back in that day. What else do we have? So Keegan DXer on June 28th heard stations from Wisconsin, Michigan, South Dakota, Saskatchewan, Montana, Oklahoma. You must, I don't know how many local stations you have, Keegan DXer, but you probably live in a place where there's a lot of space where you can tune around. Here we're very limited. In Montreal, there are only three or four different um spots where there's enough space between FM stations to actually get something. What else do we have? Yogi says RDS can let you have alternative frequencies too, allowing some car radios to retune. Yeah, Sanji and ATS 909 does have RDS, definitely. Tahoma, you can see RDS signals. Even if you have an SDR like an RSP DX from SDR player or whatever, if you go on FM, you actually have a little check mark or a little button you can press for RDS. You'll see the RDS info going through. Yeah, VT radio, the DX398, which is the ATS 909, does have RDS, definitely. Mike WX15, I say have you here. What else do we have? Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to pick up anything. Let's just try something just out of curiosity. FM is maybe less interfered with right now, but I'm just going to tune 96.5 out of curiosity with the C crane here. Nope. This is where I was tuned, 96.5 for that station. The other one was this one was the other station, like 300 kilometers away, 99.1. So I was talking earlier about the stations that I get from Burlington or from Vermont or New York. 92.9. I don't know if we're going to get it here in my office. It's very weak, but it's there. 99.9 is the other one. I get a few. I get 90. Yeah. There's quite a few that I get. I get 90. Trying to remember the ones I get, but you can see here it's a tough one in my office. Not really that good. What else do we have? Yeah, Tahoma, absolutely. And even on SDRs, you can see those with all the drawings and the pictures. That there's a lot of that going on actually, and I don't know if it's still going on, but the famous Russian buzzer on 4625, there was a lot of stations actually broadcasting skulls and all sorts of weird pictures over it. Yeah, Keegan DXer, you can have song names, song titles, call letters, weather, all sorts of things in there. Sun Pharaohs, I would think overload if it wasn't the HF plus air spy on a passive loop. I'm pretty sure you had overload, personally. Overload is much easier on, like, for example, the Radio Romania signal that you were talking about, Zenfaros, is so strong here in North America, the East Coast, that I would not be surprised that you have had overload from it. even on a very basic, you know, even with a portable with a telescopic, it could happen. I've seen it many times. You'd be surprised at how easy it is when the signal's really at its best on shortwave. Chas Tank, nice to have you on board from Louisville, Kentucky. Um, we have Tenamus have noise peaks around 8 to 10 kilohertz wide every 75 kilohertz, around 1 to 6 megahertz. Sound familiar? You got something definitely around you that has a lot of noise. Can tell you that. Keegan the Extra says the earliest memory of TVE skip was on channel 3 XHBC, Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico, and KVBC Las Vegas, Nevada. Wow, pretty cool. Yeah, Greg, you got to try the FMDX. You might be surprised. What else do we have? Yep, your Eton Elite Executive does have RTS, Greg. It's a great radio for trying for that. So for sure. It's very saturated here too, RGDA Dakota, but there's just enough space in a few spots between stations that I've been able to actually get something, especially on Monday nights. I can tell you that. Adesh Manar Rankamson, nice to have you here. Oh yeah, the power supplies and the switching power supplies particularly are really, really bad for noise. Can tell you that. Two broke Tim, not picking up any skip, but getting noise crystal clear. Um, what else do we have? Bob, in the US, it's called Muzak. What's everyone's favorite receiver? I got several of them, honestly. The name is, yeah, the RTL is the RV3 for the price. Honestly, definitely is surprising little piece of equipment for an SDR. If you're capable of living of its with its limitations, yeah, pretty nice. Take care, Chas Tank. What else do we have? Don Royal says the Kenwood R5000. I used to like my big gun, tabletop receivers. I'm not that fond of them anymore. With a lot of the portable radios that are amazing today, I almost never use them, and with especially the SDRs, I've pretty much abandoned the tabletops that I was using. Bob, we currently have tropo propagation causing distant TV stations, causing interference to trunked police radio systems. Hey, Matt, MDK2 from Columbia, Missouri. Nice to have you here. Tahoma Flex Radio or FTDX 3000. Don Royal likes his ICOM R71A. We'll all have our favorite radios. Okay, I'm back down the chat room. Let's talk a little bit about this new baby that has arrived today. So, okay, guys, look at that. Look at the shiny little radio. So, this is something I purchased yesterday on Amazon. It was on sale, so I got it for 42 Canadian dollars. And Todd, at that price, let's try it out. It does have this cool vintage look to it, which is kind of nice. This is a AM FM shortwave receiver from Prunus. I'm not fond of Prunus products in general, but I thought it was cute and I thought let's check it out. At the top, you see here, it's capable of playing MP3s through USB thumb drive, memory card, and has an internal battery to recharge at 18650. But they added a bonus on this radio. So you have the 18650, but if you want, you can actually power it off of two D batteries. Now, one of the things that the D batteries is kind of scary is look at the warnings in the back. So there's warnings that the D batteries need to be removed before you plug in to recharge, which tells me they didn't put a circuit to protect the D batteries and that probably you're recharging D batteries when you're plugging it in. What is nice for a kitchen radio, anyone looking for a kitchen radio, it actually comes with a power cable. It has an internal power supply so that you can actually plug it in. What I don't like is that the radio with the power supply comes kind of hot and hot to a point where I'm not actually sure I want to plug it in too much. But, anyways, it does come with an internal power supply, but you can also charge the internal battery using USB cabling here. AM isn't full AM. I don't know what market this radio is actually sent to because it's 522 to 1620 kilohertz. So it's like a radio maybe for Europe, but not North America. It doesn't have the expanded AM band. Shortwave misses out on a couple of frequencies because it's 6 megahertz, well, 5.9 megahertz, all the way to 18 megahertz. So a few frequencies that are missing in there. I didn't use it much. I purchased it because I just love the look. And actually, when you get it, when you buy it, you have a choice. You can buy a silver color. This is the gold color. And there's another look in it, another feel. You can also buy this radio. It costs $10 more, but buy it with Bluetooth capabilities if you want to pair your phone to listen to music in it. So I haven't tested it much yet. I tested it enough this afternoon for an hour and a half to know that it was capable of receiving radio prog via WRMI on 15770. The videos on the channel. I did hear Voice of Greece 9830 quite well, just using the telescopic antenna. So it doesn't seem to be too bad of a shortwave radio. One thing I noticed, though, is that the bandwidth is quite large. So if you ever have two stations really close together, they could technically have interfere and have a problem with each other. Audio is okay. Not the best audio I've heard on a radio because one of the things they do advertise is how good the audio is off of this. It's okay. It's not great. It's just okay. So be warned. But it is beautiful. And you know what? If you're looking, because there's one use that I see this really well, because on AM and FM, it works great. If you're looking for a cool looking kitchen radio that has a bonus of having the shortwave bands, even though it's a little short, you know what? Not bad of radio for that. Now, it's not a DXing machine. Don't go crazy over it. And I'll have a full review of this coming up in the next few days, and more videos of me listening to it. Tonight, later on after the show, I'm going to be tuning the AM band to see if I get a lot of the skip from the stations from far away. So, kind of a cool looking radio. It's quite heavy for what it is. So, there's kind of a lot of stuff in there, including maybe that power supply, because I think they've used a one of those analog power supplies, because we don't see it here, but there's really a big metal part here that think is the transformer. I think they're using a good old transformer. Now, one thing I got to say, this radio uses the DSP chip. This is a DSP chip, 4730 something. So when you tune, it tunes weird. And actually, it's the first time, well, not the first time, but if you tune a little too fast, it actually mutes when you tune if you're too fast. Like any of the DSP chip radios that's out there. But now you're getting muting while you're tuning what looks like an analog dial. So you got to tune real slow. So there's drawbacks in here. This radio is far from perfect. So, anyways, reviews coming up in the next few days to play around with it. But it is, I got to say, cute. It has a good look, a good feel. Looks like one of those, you know, 50s or 60s tube receivers. The fake wood finish kind of looks nice. I mean, come on. Kind of nice, wooden feel to it. Even though it's plastic with some kind of finish, like, over it. But, anyways, Prunus J110. And I'll be having my review on this coming up soon in the next few days for you guys. Okay. Let's go down. No problem, Matt. Take care. MDK2. Yeah, DSP tuning, definitely. SDRs, in order of how often I use them: AirSpy R2, RTL SDR, ACRF 1, SDR Play, which I barely use at all. I use the SDR Play probably 80% of the time. Well, let's say 70% of the time. The HF, the AirSpy HF plus Discovery, 20 to 25% of the time, pretty much. So, Bob, in the summer, I monitor 156-800 during the summer. East Coast coastal ducting often allows you to hear U.S. Coast Guard stations up and down the East Coast. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that in trying it. I hear the Coast Guard here, the station from the Port of Montreal, and the Coast Guard here for the St. Lawrence River. I can live without 13 megahertz, but I have a hard time with a radio that doesn't go down to at least 3 megahertz for a couple of other things, for sure. Toast and Loaf, it wasn't mentioned earlier. On FM, there's a thing called capture effect where one station can completely overtake your detector if it's just a couple of dB stronger than other stations. Cool, Matt. No problem there. It's kind of neat little radio. I wouldn't buy that technically as a shortwave receiver because that's not what I would do. It's not what I would do, but it's kind of okay. I mean, that will not be the one I'm going to tell you to buy if you want a good shortwave radio. That's for sure. But it's cute. It has a nice look and feel to it. Greg, well, the medium one does have a kind of an RDS feature to it. If you have an HD radio, the stations that are still left with HD capabilities, you do have RDS style display. I can see a couple of medium wave stations from the US with their call signs when it happens. But unfortunately, HD radio is going away. Less and less AM stations are actually, checking it. Don wishes he had his Magnavox D2999. So, One thing that I want to talk as we continue is first of all, if you guys want to hear and have the possibility to listen to every Canadian provinces and territories, there is the Canada Day contest on Friday. That's coming up. The Canada Day contest lasts all day, so it's going to start technically Thursday night, 0 UTC, go all the way to 23:59 UT on July 1st. And you have RAC stations, Radio Amateurs of Canada stations, that are in every province and territories for this event. So, what you want to chase is the RAC stations. So you'll have, for example, VA1 RAC, VA2 RAC, VA3 RAC, and so on. The RAC stations will be in every province and territories. It's just the challenge of trying to hear all of them. So you'll hear, Yukon, you'll hear Nunavut, you'll hear all of these places where there's almost never any ham activity here in Canada. So this is coming Friday, July the 1st, which is Canada Day. And of course, big weekend coming also. And we're going to check that out on Saturday because it's July 4th for you guys in the US on Monday. I think there's going to be a lot of pirate stations this weekend. I think if there is one time that we're going to have a lot of them, this weekend is going to be the time. So do check it out for the pirate bands. Remember, in North America, the pirate bands are mostly, there's a lot of different of different frequencies that can pop up, but 6850 to 7000 kilohertz, one of the most popular bands for pirate stations. And the top part of 5 and 4 megahertz is also somewhere to look at. But there's been a lot of pirates kind of outside of all of that and using different frequencies up to the 19-meter band. So I think there's going to be a lot of pirates this weekend. Check that out. So this is going to be interesting. Going to be interesting. So Canada Day contest Friday. If you guys want to try to hear, you know, territories in the northern Arctic where we don't usually hear anything from ham radio stations, well, that's the time to do it. There's also the 13 colonies contest coming up for you guys in the US, which is July, what is it? July 1st? Well, I just see it now. July 1st to July 7th, the 13 colonies. Plus, there's the extra stations in the UK that might be there and so on. It's like there's some added bonus, basically. So this is going to be kind of interesting. So lots of stuff there. Mike WX50, I'm going to wait until they put a waterfall display on the prunus. Simone, nice to have you here, Simone. If you remember, I asked you some week ago something about distortion of PLED 80 and 10 meters. About now, Sangean 909X2 radio doesn't have this problem, but very bad with antenna jack. Yeah, it's each radio has its flaws. No radio is perfect. There doesn't have, there's no perfect radio, and you know, yeah, like here, if I would listen to the 10-meter band, the 909X2 would be a better choice because the 501X and 990, and in your case 880, has a little bit of wobble and 10 meters on the SSB. Not bad enough to not understand what you're listening to, but I get it. You could be annoyed by it and not want it. And the Sangean does it well, but there's the negative side of other things. Here in my case, the Sangean ATS 909X2 is distorting with FM breakthrough everywhere, so it's kind of not fun to tune with. So there's each radio has its own little thing, an own little bug, And I don't know. I find it that it's sad to see that there's no company that has seriously looked at what everybody else is doing wrong and do a radio that, here we go, here we're doing it all right in this radio. uh, Unfortunately. Keegan DXer says his dad, W9JEF, got his ICOM IC7300 in August of 2019. The Homo, I once had a QSO at 737 Pilot over New Orleans, 20 meters. Wow. Yep, Canada Day on Friday. By the way, talking of QSL cards, just out of curiosity, um, if you guys want to have a BBC QSL, there is a BBC EQSL that is now available for any reception reports for the BBC World Service. So if you guys been waiting, maybe you've been too late and wanted to have one of those BBC QSLs, well, it's not a paper QSL that I have here. I got a couple of them from the 80s, but they have started an EQSL service for anybody that sends a reception report to any of their broadcasts for the BBC World Service shortwave. So you got an EQSL available, guys. They started to do that again. I'm wondering what made them decide that that could be interesting to do. Is it to get more listener participation? I'm wondering if it doesn't have anything to do with maybe um, getting more info on the audience out there and who might be listening. But I mean, they haven't been QSLing in a long time, so I find it kind of interesting. So BBC World Service EQSL is now a thing, which is kind of very, very surprising. And to give you guys an idea, it won't be long. I'm just going to go here. I need to get the info here. So to have an EQSL from the BBC World Service, here's the link. Won't be very long. I'm going to go here. It's probably an automated system from what I think. But this is where you go. Okay, guys? I'm actually going to do it and see how long it takes to forget my EQSL. So if you want to have your EQSL from the BBC, you go here and just fill out the form, and you will actually have a EQSL from the BBC World Service. Gordon Series 385, nice to have you here. Tahoma says he agrees. Pirates will be busy. Yeah, I would guess so. Daniel Mark LeBlanc, nice to have you on board, my friend from New Brunswick. We have Uncle Justin, KB2RMC, nice to have you on board. Matt says he'll be flying back to Denver Friday, so he'll probably miss Canada this year. Sadly, had a last-minute trip of delivering a car to my niece in Lexington, Kentucky. Tahoma, I have a friend who lives in Pond Inlet, Nunavut, Canada. Talk about report. Yep. So we have Matt. Found a pub that will be open until 1 a.m. so I can stick around here for a while. Oh, cool. VT Radio looking at the manual for the DX398 ETS909. It will not cycle through RDS. I see this RDS will correct the time. If set to auto, it's fast now. I'll recheck in the AM. Um, maybe the auto, yeah, because auto will often fix the clock. And you're right, there might be not be any cycling on that one. I haven't checked that out in a long time. If there's no cycling, then maybe you're stuck with one info of the RDS. I'm going to check mine. I got the DX398 here. I'll turn it on and test it out. Dr. Sisop, 909X2 is DSP. It has a stage of DSP, yes, but it does not mute when tuning. But it does have a staged DSP with a silicon integrated chip. Ron C, nice to have you on board from Saint Hubert, from South Shore, Montreal. Yeah, wideband receivers to home are dreadfully difficult unless you pay a very high price. They're difficult to have. Um, they have to pay a very high price for a good radio. You know, like my ICOM right here, the ICOM ICR right here, the RCR 8500 does have really good VHF, UHF, and shortwave in general. But you know, the price that it costs, I hope so. Zigzag, I had to open my new Texan PL330 to tighten the antenna connection. It was very easy to open and close. And by the way, talking about Texan receivers, there's a Texan receivers. Texan has been saying that they might, and even Anonco has been saying that there might be some difficulty in getting Texan receivers. They are saying that the chip shortage is affecting Texan, and that a lot of radios are back ordered for a long time. Anonco says they have an inventory of Texan PL330s and all of that, but they're afraid that at some point it might be a long time before you get one of them. So if you aren't quick, it might take a while before you get a Texan radio with a chip shortage, apparently. So Texan is saying that they're having a hard time really manufacturing radios right now. Don't believe the post, because I've seen a lot of posts of, oh, the Texan PL330 is discontinued. It is not. It's a bad translation from the Chinese website. It's not discontinued. It's just back order, which is a very different thing. Texan did say that they are still manufacturing the 330 and many other models. Um, like I said, chip shortage makes it very, very difficult for them to actually manufacture as many as they should. So they are telling everybody it might be a hard time sometimes. Doesn't love hearing all the WWV frequencies except 2.5. Zenfaro says maybe EQSL get info about some of the new frequencies related or new services related to Ukraine. I don't know. I think they're doing it because they want to have a better idea of what's the audience out there. You know, the BBC is going to have huge budget cuts in the next years. We're coming to a point where a lot of their budget is going to be cut off. They are thinking of the future of where do we spend our money. I think this could be a test to see, okay, from where are people listening to, what broadcasts are the most popular. They're maybe trying to find a way to have an idea of what people are listening to. MDK2 bookmarking. We'll need to give them a listen and when I'm back home. Yeah, XFM, among others. Some radios have their bandwidth shown on the device as numbers, such as 2.346. Others have narrow and wide band. What is that? Okay, so the DSP based receivers have the bandwidth in numbers in the display because they have so many choices. Some have four, five, six different choices of bandwidths. So they actually tell you what is the bandwidth. So 2.3 means you're listening to 2.3 kilohertz wide of frequency. When you listen to a station, okay, there's a bandwidth. The more you have bandwidth, the more information, especially on the audio side, the more rich audio environment and music is going to be. Single sideband typically often is a lot smaller, so you can have a bandwidth that is smaller. It eliminates everything above and below that bandwidth. So the numbers are simply how wide it is: 2.3 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz, 4 kilohertz wide. Radios that have narrow or wide are analog radios. So basically, what they have implemented in there is there's a narrow filter and there's a wide filter. What do you use? In general, the thumb of rule is you use the narrow filter for a single sideband, the wide filter for AM mode. Like listening to Radio Romania, you're going to be on a wide filter. Listening to a ham radio operator, you'll use a narrow filter. But you can switch between both because if you're listening to a station in AM and some station real close to it is interfering, you can choose narrow to remove that interfering station by narrowing the bandwidth. So in general, it will be AM is wide, single sideband is narrow, but you can switch between one and the other if interference appears. And if there's no interference or nobody next to the single sideband, sometimes the wide filter will be better audio on single sideband. Now, how big they are, what is it in numbers? That is dependent on each radio. Each radio has its own analog radio has its own circuit, and they're going to tell you you got to get the manual or the service manual, and that is going to tell you, oh, wide is 6 kilohertz, narrow is 3 kilohertz, and so on. Analog radios are often narrow wide, so basically, and yeah, Danielle, the smaller the number, the more narrow it is. So 2.3 is narrow compared to 6, which would be wide. That's pretty much it. You got it right. You got it right. It's just that DSP based radios give you a better choice. They give you the narrow and wide, but they give you the in between. So not only do you have wide or not only do you have narrow, but you've got medium and you've got even narrower than a lot of radios will give you if you go down to 1.8 or 0.5 or whatever. So the smaller the number, the narrower it is. Uh, Technically, in general, an AM signal, they calculate that, like a lot of analog radios of the days were 6 kilohertz for AM, which was wide. And most single sideband capable receivers of the day in analog, the filter for single sideband was 2.8. 2.8 is kind of the standard bandwidth for single sideband. But the more choice you have, the better, because sometimes 2.8 might be just a little too wide, and you might want to go to 2.3 or 1.8. Now, remember that the narrower it is, the more you lose audio quality because you're removing some of that frequency range of the voice you're listening to. So, that's why some radios actually, instead of narrow, wide, will say voice music. Why? Because music needs a lot of fidelity, so they'll put the widest filter possible for all the audio frequencies. But narrow will be for voice because the human voice is much smaller in bandwidth. And that's what you get on single sideband. You're just getting the bandwidth of the standard human voice. which is different from music. But you got it perfectly there. Ron Seal still using the MLA 30 Plus indoors. Awesome. Cool. I'm happy that you have fun with that for sure. RJD Dakota hearing WWV on 25. Let me try it here, just out of curiosity. It's not a usual thing that I receive at this time of night in the summer. Oh, nothing here on 25. But I do see that there's some ham activity on 24,960. So it gives you an idea that the 12-meter band is open. The Win 1960, nice to have you on board. We have Thomas Tamaro. How come in midday listening to FM 109.9 with two separate radios? One radio really reeled in New York City, the other 30 feet away caught a station, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, mid-morning from New Jersey. FM signals on VHF, because FM is VHF for FM radio. A slight move of the radio from a couple of feet, even a couple of inches, can make a difference between you receiving a station or not. First of all, just try it with a weak station. Notice how moving 2 or 3 inches away or a foot away, and look at that, I'm not getting it here, but I'm getting it here. Well, the same can happen with propagation. You might be getting a station from an area when the radio is positioned in such place, because that's where the station is arriving. And you might have another radio that is a couple of feet away, but because of its orientation in a different spot, might be receiving something else. It is totally possible. 1960, hope you're well, my friend. John Beckham, hello from Northeast Florida. Just received a new Degen D28 Pocket portable AM/FM shortwave MP3 player. Very sensitive on the shortwave bands with the regular antenna. So cool. Cool. Dr. says, BBC America will be cut along with BBC Australia. Yeah, well, there's nothing sure yet because they haven't decided anything. They are thinking of what they're going to do. Joseph, would it be too bad if the BBC went off air? Yeah, I know there are supply services to places where there is really no objective media at all. They're not going to go away. You know, my take on it is that they're going to stay on shortwave. That's for sure. We might not have as easy of a reception of the English service anymore, though. They'll maybe focus on really specific countries and their native language for the news and for the information. Where I have a hard time with what's happening with the BBC is, and I'll expand that to many other services. I'll expand that to the death of Radio Canada International. When you start thinking of a news service as money rather than the information and the news that it will give the world, especially in places where there is a need for true news that is not biased or anything. I'm sad that we're putting a dollar amount on news services. It should not happen. There should never be a dollar amount attached to important information that people need to have, like news. It's really sad. It's really sad to think that media is always thought of as dollar amounts. I mean, it's not a pop music station trying to make money. We're talking about a news service that needs to stay on. I mean, the BBC, not everybody agrees with what I'm going to say here, but this is my opinion, and I totally accept it, and and I'm pretty confident that it is um, quite accurate. The BBC World Service has been criticized for a lot of things. Yes, it has gone astray sometimes with, you know, news, but overall, the BBC World Service is one of the most powerful, independent news service out there. Listen to what you get from information from the BBC. Listen to your local media in the US or even here in Canada. Look at what you're getting as information that you're not even getting here. I mean, the North American media is blind right now. And there's even worse. There's polarization of it. Um, we don't need that. We don't need shit and news. We don't need polarized media. We need tried and true fair media that just does its job as saying, this is what I think of that based on facts. And this is what news should be. And it's not like that. It's even worse in the US. I'm sorry, you guys, but as a Canadian, US news services are crappy, very crappy right now. And it's not helping you guys. It's not helping what we get. Um, so the BBC World Service, in my opinion, is one of the most fair and least biased. We're not going to say zero biased, but the least biased news service in the world. Um, and I think that when you start thinking that as a dollar amount rather than thinking that somebody somewhere in a country around the world knows what's happening because of that service. He's got what is probably the closest thing to the truth that it can be. And you know, truth is there's always a you know, question mark. It's not every article, it's not every news item from the BBC that is necessarily zero biased. It can be slightly, you know, biased. Um, but we got to stop thinking of news services as dollar amounts. As long as that is the case, we're going to lose some of the most important, precious news outlets. And honestly, the polarization of media that's happening right now, if you put a dollar amount, you know what's going to happen in that dollar amount? You're going to have news medias that are very biased into one side that are going to be there. You know why? Because they're going to be people. They're going to say, I want that to continue and I'm going to pay for it. And you might have media that is actually much closer to the reality of things. And the thing about it is that maybe that's not going to get the funding required to keep going on. I'll give you an example, and you know, no political stuff, guys. I'll just give you an example. My opinion, I listen to the NPR station of Burlington, Vermont, and I know that it's a very delicate thing. Have you noticed that National Public Radio, that I highly value of what you have there in the US. National Public Radio is a great and amazing asset to US news. And you know what? It's interesting how the government is moving away from giving money to keep them on. They have to rely more and more on people to keep giving out their news. In a real world where everything is fair and square, everybody, whatever whatever network you are on, should have the same amount of cash for the news they want to do. And it's really, really sad to see that when somebody says something you're not happy with, it's also something that might disappear because government wants to move away. And think about it for 2 seconds. Who gets the least money when news happens? Always the station that will be the first to be able to say, you know what the government just did now is crappy and shouldn't be. What happens the year after? Oh, we're going to cut the funding from the government for your station. Well, that should not happen in any country, in any way. We are in need of knowing more about the truth. Maybe if there would be more of it, maybe it would be a little better. It's a complex thing. And I have an audience here that I totally have as a Canadian, um kind of, I see by the kind of comments you guys going to make, by the kind of emails I get, by the comments on the YouTube channel, um, that I have an audience that is on the total scale of news from one side to the other, and I see it and I know it. So what I'm trying to say is more of a, um, I'm trying to be very neutral in the way I'm saying it, and I'm not bashing on any network particularly. I'm not going to say that is bad, that is bad, that is okay. No, I'm going to just try to say in a fair media, everybody should be able to have the same powerful voice equally. Then we'll decide, and it's up to everybody to decide what you find is close to the truth and close to what your beliefs are. Don't forget, if one media is more powerful than the other, you'll be shoved that media's crap. And that can become your reality of, well, that's the world. Let's give everybody a equal voice. That is very, very important. It's just crazy how it's getting complicated in that scale. So, that's why I say all the time, when news, when information, when media is a dollar amount, it's getting seriously dangerous, because we don't talk about news as a dollar amount ever, ever, ever. Okay? Fair news, it's not a dollar amount. Everybody is equal. Everybody should have the same budget, the same voice, the same power voice. And that should be the case. Problem is, we're getting into a point where you have media that is getting polarized. And because of the way the government works, well, you know what? I'm not going to fund that station next year. I'm not going to give a dollar amount because they're talking against me. they're talking against what I want to be. So, I'm trying to be very neutral here because I know that in the specter of everybody that's out there, who's out there. I know that I got the full range of people that, and it's all right. We need a world where people have opinions. We need a world where people can express their opinions and can be of, you might be, you might not like NPR. I do. And it's all right. If everybody would like the same thing, it'd still be a problem because we'd be shoved whatever is there and we'll be robots. So, anyways, it all goes to my simple idea, and I'm scared of the BBC's funding for the future as one less voice that is going to be on the air to give us ideas. To give us ideas. And that's the problem. You think of news as dollar, man, we're doomed. Think of news as information, education, making people think. That's a winner. Thinking about a dollar amount is not a winner. Just saying. The BBC should not have to go through that. Like all the networks. All the networks should, have their own way of talking about whatever they want and the way they want it. Because it's obvious that each network doesn't talk in the same way of the same event. Some give more importance to one event from the other. And it's getting difficult to find a news source that is unbiased today. A news source that that what they just said is not fake, it's not made up, it's not a lie. It's the actual facts of what happened, which is very different. So vote for me for president. I'll be there. Okay. What else do we have? So John Beckham, nice to have you here. Joseph's got 15720 rain in New Zealand in Central California. We have Marvin Moss. Good morning from the Japan Islands. It's always nice to have you on board. And cool. Well, we're here for that to explain different things all the time. Yeah, I could be prime minister. Why not? But once again, and Sheldon Harvey's here. When we talked about the BBC funding, that was one of the first things that I said in the International Radio Report. Is when media, when news, when information, when education is thought of as a dollar amount rather than the importance that it has, it's a really, really bad decision. The BBC should never be thought of as a dollar amount. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, Radio Canada, should not be thought of as a dollar amount, but rather as what it brings us in education, news, fairness, and correctness in reporting. And for that, well, that means you need to also embrace that you need to help the others that might not have the same point of view, because you don't want to have just one point of view. I would not want to have the CBC telling me everything. I want to have the CBC telling me something, and maybe that private media telling me something, and the other private media telling me something. I'll make up my mind of where we are, but everybody needs to have the voice, and it's not a dollar amount. I'm sorry. Thomas, you guys using 4 on SSB? That's kind of wide. Because technically, ham radio operators should be at 2.8 in SSB technically. So, Mike WX50, thank you for the tip. Nice to have you here. Joseph, nice to have the tip. Thank you so much also. Let me go down, try to go down here. Okay, so take care, Paul. If you're in Vermont, it was nice to have you on board. No, I think it's every radio manufacturer. Every radio manufacturer run is having chip shortage. I think ICOM mentioned some of their models. Actually, there are some discontinued models. I believe ICOM discontinued the ICOM ICR 30 in part because of parts shortages, and there are quite a few that have been discontinued because of that. Christian Marcoux, bonsoir. Take care. Fais attention à toi. But I think all the manufacturers right now, chip shortage is a big problem. John, nice to have you here. WPE4KNC in Maryland. Bicycling vacation, riding the great Hallingany Passage. And he has his saying GNATS 909X with the ANT 60. Cool. Have fun, man. Take care, Matt. MDK2, always nice to have you on board. See you Saturday. Well, Sam, why can't we listen to many stations in daytime, only at night? So there are several things here. First of all, there's a question of target areas. So stations have target areas. Not a lot of shortwave broadcasts are omnidirectional. Most target specific areas at specific times of day. And of course, they'll target them at times when people should be listening. When are we listening? For most people, it's at night, so in the evening, because we work in the daytime, or early morning. So these are the two regions where they're going to try to reach us because that might be when we are listening. Midday, less targeted areas because people are working, but also propagation is different. Midday, it is probably one of the worst times. There's a lot of absorption in the ionosphere on certain frequencies, so it's not going to make it very far. And there's going to be, some stations that are not necessarily going to make it very strong. So it's really a question of the type of propagation you get in the day and the midday, and of course, trying to get the maximum audience, which means you want to have target areas at times when people should be available to listen to. AE1TP, A92GW. Tom, nice to have you on board. Remembers camping in a desert beach on the Red Sea many years ago, listening to RCI. Oh, man. Joseph, agree completely. Dollar news turns everything into clickbait. Then people can only think in clickbait and headlines. Yep. Hunter, and geopolitical events, given what's happening right now, I would think shortwave would be dramatically expanding. We're in a world where shortwave, the way it's going to be used in the future, is targeted to where it's important. So, for example, there is an increase in shortwave outlets to Ukraine, to Russia, because of what's happening. A lot of stations have stepped up, but it's targeted to them and their language. So, Russian, Ukrainian. And this is the way it's going to go. It's not going to target areas everywhere else where it shouldn't be important, But there will be, and I think the future of shortwave will be that. Plus, it will be that with there's going to be a certain number of transmitter sites that are going to be the major relays of shortwave. They'll be capable of reaching every part of the globe, but there's only going to be, there's not going to be that many countries actually. They're going to have their own transmitter sites anymore. they'll just rent time and um, over these powerful transmitters at specific areas that will help target an area. Pop music, Uncle Justin. What else do we have? Anyone TP? Tom says only listen to BBC Radio in my vehicle. We're driving from work daily here in Bahrain. Cool. Yeah, well, the BBC has an interesting for a long time, and now that's what's ending. Actually, it's one of the in the good old days here in Canada. When radio started, you had to pay a license fee to listen to the radio. Um, the BBC is still in that model. You want to get the BBC, you got to pay a fee on the radio. You got to pay a fee if you want a video portion of the BBC and so on. But that is one big chunk of money that's going away. They're removing the subscription fees. That's going to cut a lot of cash. Hunter Bungay says that's why I purchased a Texan H501 PL368 and GMRS handheld receiver. Keegan DXer listened to NPR News, BBC News, CBC News recently. That's the best way to really get an interesting outlook on what's happening, listening to different news sources. Caller Icon Talk Radio's opinions and only should not be taken as news truth. Oh, that's for sure. A lot of people take that for cash. Gordon Sterius says yes about BBC trusting it more. That is also a big problem. Like RGA Dakota says, is like the fact that today we have more and more stations, but all controlled by a handful of big corporations, and that definitely doesn't help. Daniel Mark LeBlanc, I know someone that's selling a Helicrafters radio model S38. It looks really good. However, it needs an antenna. Is $160 too much to pay for something like this? I've seen them the S38. I've seen it here at the local flea market in Montreal for I'd say about 120, 140 dollars. So it seems to be kind of a price point where the important thing is it has to work well. At that price, it has to really work well. Marvin Motz, thanks so much for pointing out the problem with news, but doesn't Shortwave have a possible solution to this? Individuals can put their own content on Shortwave. In part, because it could still be only the people that are you're paying it, Mr. Planet Man, on the BBC license with the radio when you purchase it. The price of your radio, you're paying a license. You don't have to pay a license to the government. But when you pay for a new radio, there's a license fee in the radio's price, Mr. Planet Man. So the problem, yes, shortwave could be a way to get news, but once again, we talk about how dollar amounts needs to be fair. So shortwave could be used for propaganda. It's been used a lot for propaganda in the past, especially in the times of the Cold War. I mean, everybody had its own voice giving you and I always say the same thing is if you're capable of, thinking and getting your own opinions based on news, how many of you guys have listened to Radio Moscow? I'm not the only one. And I think a lot of us missed Radio Moscow, actually. And Yeah, it was communist. Yes, it was Russia. It was the USSR. It was intense. Did it turn us into communists? No. Is what was the voice of America on the air turning us into non-communists? I don't think it did a good job at that either. It didn't. The Voice of America, Radio Canada, the Western world did not take us away from communism. Um, and Radio Moscow and Radio Berlin International and so on did not bring us towards communism. Everybody had interesting ideas, interesting news, and a way of thinking. And we took all of that, thought about it, and we just made our own opinion of it. It did not turn, I'm not saying it didn't turn someone a communist because it's possible, but that could be to the very different minding and that person has. But for most of us, I mean, Radio Moscow was a station I loved listening to. It didn't turn me a communist, and I miss what Radio Moscow was all about. I mean, come on. I miss what Radio Berlin was. Um, yeah, of course, life was beautiful and fantastic. It looked like almost like a paradise. Communism was the way to go. You know, everybody, we are helping the people. Um, I don't think our Western world and our way of working and our way of thinking and are basing a lot of who we are on who makes the most amount of money and who can pay for stuff necessarily better. Honestly, ask a poor person if they're happy in our world of you got to have money to pay for everything. I don't think I'm going to tell you that. They're probably going to tell you it's a crappy world they're living in. And the other extreme existed too. I mean, people in Russia we know had a hard time. It was a very, very difficult time for them. And we were lied by the communist bureau with these programs that life would look better than it was in reality. But I'm sorry, aren't we doing the same thing? Isn't Voice of America kind of telling that life in the United States is the best thing in the world? Is it really? It's another question. It's another thing. Propaganda is propaganda. But I think hearing a lot of everything around us, plus our life experience and seeing the world around us, is giving us who we are and why we're here and what we think. My way of thinking is based on living in Canada, particularly even more because living in Quebec, being francophone, there's even more intense stuff going on for that. And add to that listening to the world, listening to the um, listening to the different viewpoints of everybody. It made me definitely have my own ideas of where we are, what's right, what's wrong, and it's cool for that. I think shortwave is a great way was a great way back in then to anybody to have a fair idea of who's perfect, who's not. Now, Dr. Sisop, I don't want to have a mention of any president, Biden or Trump or anything, because I am tired of that. It's not the first time you do it. I am going to block you if there's any more mention of a president's name on this chat. Is it clear? Because I'm not fucking around. So, we just gotta use our way of thinking and the different news around us. Okay. Joseph, even NPR is going to the tank. Unfortunately, they know they're in the crosshairs. So, yeah, and when you are in the bad position where they're not gonna give you funding, it's sad because that means you can really um, you know polarize who you want to speak, which is sad when you think about it. We don't all agree of what news service is the best, but listen to different news services together and make the best idea you can of all of this. Okay, what else do we have? John Beckham, when the public pays for the news service, it delivers usually quality and reliable news to those viewers. Hank Parr, and I say, have you on board, my friend? Marvin Mutz, extremely important topic. Please continue not just today, but other days in the future. Shortwave as a solution if we search for it. Definitely, shortwave has one major positive point to it, and it is to be able to cross borders. So shortwave, what's nice is if you block the voice of someone via internet or any other media, local media, well, that voice could be on shortwave, and there you can't block it anymore. It's there. It's crossing the border. That's what's happening with Ukraine and Russia. That's why China's spending hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars in jamming. I saw a number. I was looking at an old Monitoring Times magazine um, last a few days ago, not that far, like last week. They were talking. It was a magazine from I think it was 1990, 1991. They were talking about the Russian woodpecker, and they were also talking about the Russian jamming when the Curtain fell, when 1991, Russia stopped jamming all of the Western media stations. Suddenly, they were saying in that magazine that in 1989, the Russian jamming against Western stations cost them $1.3 billion a year. Imagine Russia was spending $1.3 billion a year blocking what they don't want people to hear on shortwave. That's a hell of a lot of money for 1989. It's just crazy when you think about it. $1.3 billion a year. The number struck me. When I saw that number, I was like, whoa, 1.3 billion a year just to jam Western stations? Crazy. Crazy. So Hank Parr from Los Angeles, nice to have you on board. Bob says no fake news. Yeah. And people want me for president or prime minister. Greg, the 909X2 on SSB is not deaf on every radio. Mine is not at all. Mine works great on SSB. The audio is lower, but it actually works great on SSB. But there are people reporting that their SSB it's not deaf, it's that the audio level is extremely low. And I think that points to a quality control issue on the Sangean 909X2, which is sad when you think about the price that radio is going for. Mike WX50 used to know a DJ at KUAF who would play pretty hardcore type music. I called him at the station at one time to request air supply. I won't include what his response was. So I want to be, Keegan wants me to be president of Shortwave. Thomas, I learned so much listening BBC World Service that the American media mediums never explored. And there's a lot of stations out there that talk about stuff we don't hear, even here in Canada. I mean, It's crazy. 9WX50 back in the day, I had BBC, Swiss Radio International, CBC, and others that I relied on to receive world news. What else do we have? Marvin Moss, US hams can have weekly discussions of real news, such as others can listen in on shortwave. John Beckham, editorial was great tonight. Thank you, sir. Well, so Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec. I should be giving you my messenger column possibly tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure it's a big chunk of it is done. If you guys are not aware of the Canadian International DX Club, we are going to have, of course, the usual July. I'm having frequencies and things to listen to if you want to monitor anything regarding hurricane season on shortwave. It's my column for July. Yeah, Joseph, I think what we're pissed off is that we're not getting what we want, and we have the impression that there's a lot of the powers that are around us that are not necessarily doing it well. We'll just say that. Marvin Mott's propaganda is very well camouflaged. Look like professional authentic news. I'll have an example of propaganda for a non-believer. What did HCJB do? As we all got hooked on HCJB for the programs they had. But what was HCJB's purpose? It was to bring us to their own Christianity feel and look. So you might not be Christian, you might be atheist. They were still able to have you listen, and that was an example of propaganda. Every single show they did that you liked had that little bit of 45 seconds or a minute of religious thing, talking about Jesus and so on. It is propaganda in a way. It is camouflage to look like you like the DX party line, but they will try in a subtle way to bring you in their ideology of what they want. And if you were a Christian, you were okay with that. I've always been atheist. I just didn't, my ears just shut down during that moment. But I still listened to HCJB because it was there, and and on all the things they do around it. And every religious station is very subtle in the way that, let's, maybe if we send you a New Testament, maybe that could, have you look at it and suddenly convert you into something. And it's not just Christian; it's every type of of religion out there and so on. But it's a form of propaganda. They were just subtly, doing it. I think it's Sheldon. I never noticed, but somebody told me that the DX party line, when they were talking about loggings of stations, favored Christian shortwave stations in their loggings when they were talking about stations they could hear. That's a subtle way of, doing it. And I mean, that's the thing. Joseph, it's a challenge to really genuinely listen to a different view. That's the fun of radio. For me, though, most people just want to hear what validates what they're already believe, though. And you know what is the biggest problem there? It's also the fact that people tend to get stuck on one frequency and never get out of it. And that is dangerous. What is dangerous? If you're stuck on the same media all the time, if you're incapable of listening to one media outlet, another media outlet, another media outlet, and then see what you take or not from all of it. But dang, some people are just stuck on that media outlet, the only media outlet, the only thing they ever listen to. That is a very bad thing. Never, ever. And if you're one of those, by the way, watching this, that's always stuck on one media outlet, take the time, even if you have your beliefs, take the time to go over to a few others, give them the chance to explain in a way what they want to, and you'll see. You'll see. Maybe you'll get a new take on certain subjects and certain ideologies. And that's how I think we can evolve, is having different things to listen to. But if you're stuck on, I'm always on that channel, that's very dangerous. That is very dangerous. Rich Long, just like to ask an off-topic question. Is there any international SDRs that monitor maritime bands, especially in the Pacific? Well, actually, any SDR, like the Kiwi SDRs, you just find what is the maritime bands and choose an SDR in the target area you want to listen to, and you'll be able to hear the marine bands or maritime bands from that area. Actually, there's an interesting thing that I was watching. There was um, a list of frequencies that I saw, and I think it's in Gail Van Horn's latest book, um, where she's mentioning more than a dozen frequencies that are um, actually pretty active for marine ship to shore broadcasting of all sorts of communications. And I want to actually monitor those because I think it could be very interesting. John Beckham remembers the aural sounding jamming noises. Yeah, and they had Morse code ID. That always made me laugh. It's like we didn't do it, but you're IDing with Morse code within the jammer what jamming station you're listening to. Actually, you can almost DX each. I'm sure somebody somewhere DX'd each jamming station across all of Russia back then. Oh man. Brian would get all kinds of free stuff from Radio Beijing back in the 90s. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Sam, listening to radio stations in internet is more easy. Any more stations, not as shortwave as radio stations, limited stations, only international stations. Emeritus E, wasn't the Russian woodpecker supposed to be an over? Yeah, that was a radar. That was a radar detection. Yes. Tostin Love says WWV turned me into a clock. I like that. Danielle Marc LeBlanc says, if I am president, I have to greet each and every one of you wearing a suit. Oh God, that's gonna be a tough one. um, Jay Watterson, none mentioned interference from NTDX female park rangers. The my WX50 HCJB fell because Radio Moscow had already turned us into commies. Yeah. John Beckham, it appears Cato Electronics is the parent company of Degen. This is a company that appears to manufacture above average shortwave receivers. Yeah, Cato, Degen pretty much linked together. Absolutely. Because the Cato KA1103 is the same as the Degen D1103. And in general, they're not too bad radios. So Maxim Bizarre with WTWW has slowly been playing more Jesus interludes, and yeah, that an example here. I mean, I like to listen to WTWW music sometimes when there's nothing else that interests me on shortwave. I'll put a shortwave radio there. It's like, I'm listening to shortwave anyways. But the amount of little 2 minute, 3 minute ads of, Jesus is here in your life, and it's a subtle way of trying to, you know, listen to your favorite pop music, and at the same time, I'm going to try to convert you into maybe an ideology that you're not into, you know. Variety is usually good. Absolutely, Rob. Sheldon says, correct, Sheldon. The Export 9, they usually mention a number of loggings of shortwave stations, but almost without exception, there were loggings of other religious stations. And yeah, there are a lot of them around the world, subtly hoping to get their listeners to tune into other religious broadcasters. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That, Yep. If you guys have never noticed, the jammer from Russia, the jammers had Morse code identifications in them. You would know there are actually lists out there of the jammers, their location in Russia, and by the Morse code identification, you know which jammer you were listening to. So it was almost like an identification of noise. What else do we have? Oh man, Gunsmoke, Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock. Wow. Remember watching that when I was younger. Oh, MASH, WKRP. Oh yeah, there's still some Dr. Sisop. There's still some HF Marine stuff happening. You got a station down there in Florida, 8137, I think is a frequency, which has regular scheduled communications with ship to shore. The name is like when I heard guns. Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many American pop songs and songs from the U.S. bands that play on Radio Havana, Cuba. I'm always kind of surprised. Yeah, I think Dr. Sisop, it has to do with maybe the power and the money that the groups have to set up stuff. Um, if you look at the reactivation of that WMLK station, that is a Assembly of Yahweh group. I mean, I think the more powerful one group is, um, the more you are. Man, my got burns in my eyes. Sorry, guys. The more you have chances of maybe being, I'm still surprised that religious broadcasters use shortwave as an outlet. I said it a few times. I was listening to the online call-in show from WEWN, which is Catholic. And they ask on every caller where you're listening from, what station you're listening to. And in one afternoon, dozens and dozens of call, I think there was only one or two that was I'm listening on shortwave. 98% were listening through an AM or FM outlet local to them, which kind of tells me, why the hell are you on shortwave? I mean, dead brother stare. Really? Spending that amount of money on just shortwave broadcasting? Um, I don't know, but I'm not sure that's the best outlet to be popular, you know? And we always had this, this moment that I was talking about saying, oh, well, shortwave, people are listening on shortwave. It's like, yeah, okay. I'm not, no, I don't know. I don't know. That's why sometimes you're thinking about, is that maybe, is the money coming from somewhere else and what actually we think it is? QSL, your local jammer, says Joseph. Yes, absolutely. So I was, you send a letter to Russia. Back in the 80s, a lot of the stations I didn't have postal address. And what I would do, for example, with Radio Moscow, for a long time, what I would do is I would just put Radio Moscow, Moscow, Russia. Nothing else. No numbers, no post office box, anything. And it would go through. They would get it. They would get the letter. So maybe we could have done, Jammer Alpha Bravo, Leningrad, Russia. Maybe we got a QSL card out of it. Rob, Mr. Paul is a little sick. He's been having diarrhea for the past couple of days and sleeping a lot. So I hope it's not too bad. I've been keeping an eye on him to see if he's all right. Yeah, Cuba. Cuba is just noise. If they would identify a jammer, oh, this is near Havana. Jammers Anonymous, says John Beckham. Jammers Anonymous. That would be a good name for a band. My rock band is called Jammers Anonymous. Yeah, it can happen with Mr. Paul, but I think it's gonna be okay. He goes out and probably eats stuff he shouldn't eat. So I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, Sir Maximus Hardwood, especially in the morning with the high solar activity. There's a lot of Asian stations coming in. Absolutely, improved propagation through the solar activity is really improving signals from everywhere. Actually. So, hey guys, my high is burning. We've been on for 2 hours and 53 minutes. Hope you enjoyed the show today. It was definitely a very interesting show and the outlook and taking in the the pulse of what we all want in our media. I want to thank everybody for being here as usual. And yeah, my eye's going to be better. It's just, I think it's like I'm sweating and there's part of the sweat that got into my eye, but don't worry about it. It happens from time to time. I'm used to it. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, listen to as much different outlets of media as possible. That's how you get, I think, an interesting outlook and a fair outlook. I always say the truth lies somewhere in the middle of different opinions. It's never one side. It's somewhere in the middle of all of it. So take care. What I'm going to do now is 23, so a 03 UT. I'm going to listen to 5925 and 5925, which is Voice of America from Botswana. That usually comes in well. At 04 UT, I'm going to listen to the BBC 9915 from Madagascar. That comes in really well. And somewhere in there, maybe later, I'll listen to 15720 Radio New Zealand. That usually comes in quite well also. So a few ideas of you guys in North America. Thanks everyone for being here. Always really nice to have all of you. It's always a great moment with great people. So thank you everyone. Stay safe and see you Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours Universal Time. Bye bye everyone.